Good morning, folks. Hope you're doing well today. And I'm going to introduce today's assignments, um, both of which have to do with um, polygenic inheritance. And polygenic inheritance is something that I talked about in the previous little video lecture. And a polygenic trait, just to review, is a trait that we inherit um, by receiving more than two alleles for a particular trait. So, for example, we've been looking at um, traits that we inherit with either a capital A and a lowercase a. Okay, each of those represents an allele, or a capital A and a capital A, or a lowercase a and a lowercase a. The, those versions of the A are alleles, and the letter A represents one gene, meaning we got a gene, which is a section of a chromosome from mom that codes for a particular trait. We got a gene, which is a section of a chromosome from dad that codes for that particular trait. And there's just one section on the chromosome. There's one gene, even though there's two versions, one from mom and dad. Okay, so the idea with a polygenic trait is that there's more than one section on a chromosome, or maybe on separate chromosomes, okay, more than one section of DNA, so that means more than one gene, that codes for a particular trait. So let's say today we're going to be looking at skin color, which is a polygenic human trait. Okay, so the idea is in human skin color there are at least three genes that determine skin tone. Okay, and so that means we inherit three versions, three different alleles from mom. Let's call them gene A, gene B, and gene C. Okay, and A could be capital or lowercase, meaning it could be dominant or recessive. B could be capital or lowercase, meaning it could be dominant or recessive. And C could be capital or lowercase, meaning it could be dominant or recessive. So we get one version of A, B, and C from mom, and same from dad. One version of A, one version of B, and one version of C from dad, either dominant or recessive, either capital or lowercase. So that means as a human offspring of two parents, you end up having six alleles that code for skin color. And each allele is represented as a capital or a lowercase version. So take a look at this chart here. Most of the hard work's been done for you, but this is saying this is the resulting Punnett square, okay, that comes from a cross of two individuals with these genotypes, okay, and here are, let's say mom is first and dad is second. The genotype of mom is capital A, lowercase a, capital B, lowercase b, capital C, lowercase c, and dad is the same. Okay, and after you read this section here, you'll be clear why they say two individuals of intermediate skin color. Okay, it turns out that the more dominant alleles you have in your genotype, the more melanin your skin produces and the darker your skin is. Okay, so take a look at this chart down here, right? This is saying, let's say this is mom's genotype. Oops, mom's genotype there. And remember, mom has two versions of A because she got a version from her mom and from her dad, but when and if mom has kids, in this case, she's only going to pass on one version of that A, right? She might pass on capital A, she might pass on lowercase a. Similarly, with the gene indicated by the letter B, she might pass on capital B, or she might pass on lowercase b. And the same with C. And so those options are all listed here in this vertical column, right? She might pass on capital A, capital B, and capital C. Okay, but then again, she might pass on capital A, capital B, and lowercase c. Okay, and all of the different versions of what she might pass on are listed here in this vertical column. And same with dad, except dads are listed in this horizontal column. Okay, and it turns out those options are the same because, as we saw earlier, mom and dad have the same genotype. Okay, so then what happens is you have these 64 squares here. Okay, there's 64 of them, and each square represents a 1/64th chance that a child will get that particular combination of alleles. Okay, so one thing you see in this chart is the combination of alleles that might be inherited. The other thing you see is, and this is the number 6 is there to indicate how many dominant alleles are in this particular genotype. Well, you can see in this one, it's 6 capital letters, which means 6 dominant alleles, which is why there's a letter 6 in that box. Okay, and then you can see they've completed the first 2 rows for you, and those 2 rows have numbers to indicate how many dominant alleles are in each of the boxes. Okay, and then if you look down the rest of this chart, it basically shows you the number of dominant alleles without writing in the combinations of A's, B's, and C's. Okay, so that's what this is all about. And then your job is, it's only these 4 questions. The first thing is to count up how many individuals have 0 dominant alleles. Well, you come up to the chart and look. And then you divide that number by 64, and that's the percent chance that the offspring will have 0 dominant alleles if these are the genotypes of the parents. Okay. In the next bit here, it says, well, how many of those 64 possibilities have just 1 dominant allele? Well, you come back up to the chart. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, unless I missed any. So that would be 6 divided by 64, and that times 100 gives you the percentage likelihood that an offspring of those 2 individuals would have a genotype with 1 dominant allele. Okay, and then this line here is to show that, the human range is from 0 dominant alleles to 6 dominant alleles. The more dominant alleles you have, the more melanin your skin cells create, and the darker your skin is. Okay, so those are the 4 questions that go along with this chart. Okay, the other thing I'm assigning is an 18-minute video, which kind of explains the evolution of human skin color over the course of human history, and also how melanin is used and seen in other species on the planet. So that's your work for today, and let me know if you have questions. Stop by a video chat, send me an email, and in any event, hope all's well, and we'll talk to you later.